I'm Hannah.
And I am Tiffany.
And welcome to Witchy Weirdos.
Yes, welcome or welcome back. Don't know if you've been here before. We have no idea what episode it is. And we're having a million technical difficulties.
Yeah, we're loving today.
This is a good one. So if the first part of this sounds rehearsed, it's because it is. We already did it.
We've been there, done that.
Yes, but today we're having a bit of a weird conversation. It kind of stemmed from like Halloween, spooky Halloween stuff into a bit more of like our casual witchy topics. So we're going to be talking about some Halloween festivals, some weird stuff going on this Halloween, some pagan festivals, some all-round interesting, fun things.
Love it. Tell you what, I'm a bit gutted that like our technical difficulties didn't happen while we were talking about something spooky. Like, can you imagine how creepy it'd be if we were talking about a ghost that like cuts off the power in someone's house and then you just got cut from the original bit of the podcast?
I don't think I'd be able to handle that.
I'm mildly gutted.
I think I'd have to quit and like move away.
That'd be it. That'd be the end of Witchy Weirdos.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, they've taken a very long break this time. Oh God. Okay, well, right. Let's just go.
Yes.
Let's just dive in.
Take us through Halloween 2020.
Halloween 2020. Thank you, Hannah. I don't know how you knew I was going to say that.
I know. What are the chances? My clairvoyance is strong tonight.
Yeah. So, Halloween 2020 is going to be a very interesting one. So, we have typical harvest moons, 1st of October, as usual. We normally expect that. But this is going to be a really spooky Halloween, especially because of the moon. So, this Halloween, there will be a full moon on Halloween, but not even just a full moon on Halloween, which is weird enough. It's actually a blue moon.
Ooh, creepy.
So, ooh, very weird. Very, very weird. Blue moons only ever really happen every like 18 to 19 years. And then when a full moon lands on Halloween, everyone like goes wild because that's insane. Like to literally have a blue moon on Halloween is like that's cosmic, like terrifying and very exciting stuff.
It sounds it. I know we've already had this conversation before, but I'm still like got that chill down my back when you started to talk about it. Like there was something about this that just like makes my body react.
It's strange. It's really, really strange. So if you don't know what like a blue moon is, basically a typical lunar cycle is 29 days long. Since most months are longer than 29 days, depending on how that lunar cycle is working, there's a chance that you can have 2 full moons in the same calendar month. When that happens, it's called a blue moon. So that's why I'm saying it's super weird for Halloween. Not only is it there is a full moon landing on Halloween, but it's the second full moon of that month, which is just like, it's uncomfortable.
It's intense, isn't it? Like that's a lot of energy.
Yeah, a seasonal blue moon just like does not happen. And it turns out this year's been very strange in terms of like the lunar cycle. We will by the end of the year have had 13 full moons, 2 super moons, and then the full moon also on Halloween.
Oh, so, man, no wonder it's been such like a weird year.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all in the moons.
So, it's all in the moons. And I've read a few different articles about this, and you know, depending on the source, people are either very freaked out and they're like, "Oh my god, it is the end of the world. Zombies are going to rise from the grave. Like you're dead. Like horrible murderers are going to come back and like try and kill everyone." Yeah, some people are very scared, and other people, specifically on TikTok, I have to say, actually,
your reliable source of TikTok.
My reliable source here is TikTok. I've seen loads of like witches on TikTok talking about how this moon is really great for like manifesting and really great for like recharging. If you have crystals to recharge, you want to recharge them on a blue moon
good to know.
On Halloween. That's mad, absolutely mad. But yeah, as if this year wasn't weird enough, there's now a blue moon on Halloween.
I don't even know how to feel about this. I didn't realise it was going to be so, like, creepy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm staying inside.
Yeah. I mean, we fully support the whole stay home. Stay home, protect yourself from coronavirus and the blue moon simultaneously.
Yeah, that's what you really need to remember this Halloween. Not only is there a pandemic, but you don't know what's going to go on outside.
Oh, what a year we've been thrown.
I know, we've really been through it, this one.
I find that so fascinating. And I always find full moons so interesting as well. Like, working with children, you can so see the energy shifts when it comes to full moons. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even know, like, there's just so much energy, and like, it's like they can't even contain their energy when it comes to a full moon. It's kind of a little bit crazy.
That's really interesting. There's something else I've heard as well, and I don't know if I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but my partner, who's a police officer, he said that if he goes to work and he's on a night shift and there's a full moon, every single police officer rolls their eyes, because you deal with some insane stuff if there is a full moon.
Creepy.
He says every single time, without a doubt, you will end up in like some kind of like rehab institution, a mental health institution. You'll be dealing with people who are just like off.
Oh my god,
absolutely.
We need like a full moon,
and it's always a full moon.
We need like a full moon story special. Like, that would be good.
Oh my god, I could get you some real
I love this
stories. But yeah, it's really weird that that's a thing. But apparently, like, I've even seen memes of it on like police officer pages that are like, when you see a full moon and you instantly panic for the people that are on shift. God. I'm like, wow. Imagine it being like that, just like normal to say, oh my god, it's a full moon, we're gonna have a big night.
I completely get it. Like, you do. If like something's been a little bit crazy or whatever, you're like, oh, of course, it's that blue moon again. Not blue moon.
Literally.
Like full moon.
Well,
it would be blue this time.
I mean, imagine. Oh, dear. The stories from that shift, I'm sure, are going to be terrible.
And on Halloween, like, you're going to get some drunk, like, costumed, like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's what I predict for this Halloween.
Glad it's not me.
Yes.
But yeah.
Awesome.
So, some things that I've researched today. I don't remember what you've gone for, Han, but I've gone for like, it's called the Wheel of the Year, and it goes over like basically all of this like pagan seasonal festivals. What have you got?
So I've got a little bit of information on Mayborn, the autumn equinox, and then I've also got some info on Fete Gede, or the Day of the Dead in voodoo culture. So I thought we could talk about that a little bit as well.
I love it. So that, I can see it, this can fit in really well. So Mabon, it is one of these festivals on the Wheel of the Year. So we could get to that, and then you could tell us all about Mabon.
Yes, like it.
That sounds good. And then we'll go, oh my god, voodoo fest. Oh,
I went a bit off books for my research, but I'm proud of what I found.
Go on, I can't actually wait. I was going to say let's wait at the end.
What do you do now? So. Okay, so how this all came about is I wanted to know if there was like a voodoo Halloween tradition, because obviously, like we said, the veils and stuff are very thin on Halloween. And so I googled it, and what I learned is that the Day of the Dead, or the Fete Gede, I don't know if I'm saying that right, actually falls on November 1st and 2nd. So in that area of kind of like the veils between the worlds being at their thinnest and all of that, it does fall into that pattern. And I think I found that so interesting, because like, how can you have two extremely different kind of beliefs and belief systems that all have their like festivals and stuff fall on that particular day, like the 31st into the 1st? Like,
oh my god, that's
if that's
so
not
weird.
Some sort of evidence for whatever like happens on Halloween into November 1st, I don't know what is. Like, it really shocked me. I thought that acts as such good, solid like information, doesn't it? So the kind of information I got focuses mainly on the island of Haiti and the tradition of Fete Gede on Haiti. And basically, what's quite sad about this is the tradition is actually a dying tradition because of Halloween.
Oh,
So because of the
no.
popularity of Halloween and the fact it's becoming more than just a spiritual thing, it's a very commercial thing now. It actually is overshadowing this spiritual festival that's happened for centuries, which kind of is a bit rubbish. But basically, this focuses around the idea of the legend of Baron Samedi, also known as Baron Lacroix. And the Baron, we'll call him, is an undertaker. And he wears a top hat and has like the long tails. And he runs all the cemeteries in the kind of, I guess in the Haiti area, but I don't know if this goes on to like further the voodoo cultures or if it's just this area. But so he runs all those cemeteries and he carries a walking stick. And I love this because the walking stick is actually a phallic fertility symbol as well. So, you know,
No way.
why not?
Love it.
So
Love it.
the idea in this kind of voodoo culture, and I guess like it doesn't just have to be like a voodoo culture, it's kind of just like the spirituality of the kind of area. And I think we can kind of see this Day of the Dead ritual in a lot of different cultures. So the idea is that you say your prayers and you make offerings to the dead. So in this culture, the voodoo spirits of the dead, or of death even, so the kind of the like spirits that come into the voodoo priests or and whoever they're like is channeling them, they then fall into trances and the spirits of death come through. And so the spirits of death have come from the cold world, it's described. So in order to kind of overcome the cold from that world, they drink alcohol and eat hot peppers, and they also dance around the cemeteries, which is so cool. I love it. So in order to kind of prepare for this kind of the spirits coming through and being transported through, the voodoo practitioners will pour liquor onto the tombs of their loved ones, and at the cross of Baron Samedi, which is in every Haitian cemetery. So the kind of symbol of the person who protects the cemetery, who runs the cemetery, Baron Samedi, you also pour your liquor on his kind of statue, which is pretty cool. Like, I love the idea of the fact that they come from somewhere cold, so you instantly warm them up and kind of like protect your ancestors in that sense. However, this is kind of a second reason why this is becoming a bit of a dying tradition. The idea that you dance in a cemetery is kind of seen as dancing on the dead or mocking the dead, and this actually angers Protestants. So this is another reason why this has kind of become something that's starting to fall out of tradition. But I personally, like, I love the idea of Day of the Dead and like celebrating your family and the connection and the idea that you still feed them, you still show your love. I find that really wholesome and really like just comforting. I love it. So it was really interesting to see this kind of voodoo practitioner approach of the Day of the Dead.
That is really, really interesting.
So yeah, like I'm fully in love with this, and I think actually, like, why not have fun? Like, why not celebrate the fact that your past loved ones or spirits are back? Like, why not celebrate and why not dance? It doesn't have to be necessarily a negative thing. So
yeah, I think it's all about like the intention, and very clearly, like the intention is
to kind of
to mock,
show love,
to welcome.
So yeah, that is Voodoo Fetigede, the Day of the Dead.
That is so cool. Oh my god. And that's so interesting that it literally, like you said, like
I can't get over it. Like, it Halloween just provides some evidence to me that I can't really ignore.
That's so strange. That's going to keep me up
there's
at night.
Probably a lot more to be researched around this and kind of what other festivals and stuff fall on those dates. but super interesting.
Very cool. Well, in terms of the rest of the year, including that, because we will get back to that as well, there is this thing, like I said earlier, called the Wheel of the Year. The Wheel of the Year is like an annual cycle of seasonal festivals observed by modern pagans. And it basically consists of the year's chief solar events, so the solstices and the equinoxes and the midpoints between them. So for anyone that doesn't know, a solstice is the time in the year when the sun reaches its highest and lowest points at noon, which basically makes like the shortest and longest days of the year. An example of that would be like the summer.
I love a good equinox and solstice.
Exactly, yeah. So an equinox, if you don't know, is the time when the sun crosses over the plane of the Earth's equator, making night and day of approximately like equal length. And so there's two. There's the spring equinox, which is around the 21st of March, and the autumnal equinox, which is around the 22nd of September. And again, that's just kind of where the sun's crossed over the equator, so day and night are equal lengths, which I think is really interesting. So yeah, back to the Wheel of the Year. So knowing, solstice and equinox, it is those four events. So the two solstices, the two equinoxes, and then the points between them. Those mark some of like the most important festivals. So I guess the first of which would be I'm going to start actually in December.
Oh yes,
love a bit of
cozy Yule.
Yeah. So this is the winter solstice. Midwinter, commonly known as Yule, or within modern Druid traditions as Alban Arson. It's been recognised as a significant turning point in the yearly cycle since the late Stone Age. And basically, sites like Stonehenge are carefully aligned with the solstice, sunrise and sunset to exemplify that. So it's like the reversal of the sun's presence in the sky. It symbolises like rebirth of the solar gods. And it's so interesting, and it like welcomes back like the fertile seasons, it says. So like the end of the winter solstice is like, okay, winter is now done, like welcome back to like the warmth.
I support that.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And it's from like even from like Germanic to Roman traditions, like it's the most important time of celebration. That's kind of why I wanted to start there.
I like that.
Like, the most important, because it's like welcoming.
I feel like we all need that
start
in our lives as well, a little bit, like that reminder of a fresh start.
Oh yeah, totally, especially this year. So yeah, practices vary, but sacrifice offerings, feastings, and gift givings are like common elements of like midwinter festivities. Christians do that to an extent. You give gifts.
There's a lot of kind of like religious festivals that do fall into that time period, don't they? That are very kind of similar.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's interesting. Like you can see a lot of interesting capitalism based on some of these things. Like very funny. But originally it would be like bringing sprigs and wreaths of like evergreenery, like holly, ivy, mistletoe, and it would be about like bringing it into your home and tree decorating and stuff like that. And that's kind of where like Christmas comes from, and like a lot of the Christmas festivities. And Roman traditions also have like additional festivities that take place on the 6 days leading up to midwinter. And just for like a date reference, Yule is typically between the 20th and the 23rd of December, sometime around them. So after that, you have Candlemas, or Imbolc, Imbolc. So this is the cross-quarter day following midwinter, and it's on the 1st of February, and it traditionally marks the first stirrings of spring. So it aligns with like contemporary observance of Groundhog Day, and it's time for purification and spring cleaning and the anticipation of the new year. So in Rome, it was historically like the shepherd's holiday, and So Celts associated it with the onset of U's location. Did I just say location?
Oh my god, I was so confused.
Lactation.
I was like, is it a missing person service? Like, what is this? You should have seen me like staring blankly at the wall. Like, I don't know what you just meant.
No, so use lactation.
That makes a lot more sense.
Spring lambs is what I meant to say. I thought I said location.
I also thought you said youth instead of like use.
Did my brain stop working?
So I heard youth location.
Oh no. This is very forward thinking. Okay, back on. So for Celtic pagans, this festival is dedicated to the goddess Bridget. Sorry. Not Bridget Jones. She is a goddess, but the Celts did not, in fact, worship her. So this is the daughter of Dagada, and this is some kind of god, I think. I don't know too much about it, but yeah, dedicated to a goddess. And among reclaiming tradition witches, this is the traditional time for pledges and rededications for the coming year, and for initiation among Dianic Wiccans. So it's like a time of like welcoming in new people.
I like that.
Yeah, just a time to like pledge what's going to happen in the year. Very, very interesting. So that's Candlemas, 1st of February. After that, we're at the first quarter point of the year, which is the spring equinox. So this is derived from a reconstruction produced by linguist Jacob Grimm of an old High German form, the old goddess name. Oh, I'm not going to be able to say this. It's like Easter. I don't know. E with like a line on the top of it.
No clue.
O-S-T-R-E. So I don't know what that E with the line on the top of it. I don't know how that's pronounced. But yes, so it's this whole festival is like light of the earth. And this holiday is like the second of the 3 spring traditions, and it's during this whole time it's like light and darkness are back in balance, with light on the rise. So it's kind of like, you know, shutting away winter and like fully coming towards that summer, but you're not quite there yet. It's the time of like pure balance, time for new beginnings, life emerging further from
I crave that already.
the grips of winter. Yeah, I know. And the spring equinox typically happens around the 19th to the 22nd of March. Yeah. After that, we have the next like midpoint, and that's Beltane. May Eve, it's also called. So traditionally, this is actually the first day of summer in Ireland, and in Rome, it's the earliest celebrations of this appeared like pre-Christian times with the festival of Flora.
That's so cute.
Flora is the Roman goddess of flowers. When I see Flora now, I just think of Haunting of Bly Manor. Yeah.
Oh God, don't! I'm like haunted by the idea of Peppa Pig at this point in my life.
That really like.
So I'm like, I think I'm on episode 8 now, so I'm nearly finished, and I'm like living in fear of the idea that the Peppa Pig toys at work are one day going to speak to me, like for no reason. Like they're just going to go off in the like where we store them, and I'm just one day going to hear Peppa Pig say something, and that's going to be me done for life. Like, yeah.
Because literally, because it's just going to be Flora's voice.
Yes.
Terrifying.
Anyway.
Oh, gross. Oh yeah. Anyway, Beltane. So, since the Christianization, didn't know that was a word, of Europe, a more secular version of the festival is like continued on in Europe and mainly America, and it's commonly referred to as May Day. So in this form, it's well known for like the maypole dancing. And
now this just makes me think of Midsummer, so we're doing great on the references.
Exactly, but that's literally like, I think that's sort of like the time period just before when that would have been set. But yeah, so this is celebrated by like many pagan traditions. Among like modern druids, this festival recognizes the power of life in its fullness, I can't read today, the greening of the world,
lush.
usefulness and flourishing. So yeah, a lot of the festivals here are kind of like, this is like the maypole dancing and very like, it's all about like flowers.
Yeah.
It's all about that like fertile nourishment and that kind of period. Next one, we're at kind of like the midpoint of the year. We're at the summer solstice.
Ah, there we go. That makes more
which
sense.
is midsummer. So midsummer is one of the four. So, yeah, there we go. So midsummer is one of the 4 solar holidays, and it's considered the turning point at which summer reaches its height and the sun shines the longest. Midsummer. And among the Wiccan Sabbats, Midsummer is preceded by Beltane, like we just said, and then it's later followed by Lammas, or it's called like Lunesh.
Yeah, stick with that.
I'm just gonna go with Lammas. Yeah. So some Wiccan traditions call this like the summer solstice, the reckoning of time. It's like an Anglo-Saxon name, and it roughly corresponds to June in the Gregorian calendar, and it's kind of just like they just name it after that like whole time period. And modern druids celebrate the festival as the light of summer. So like there's loads of different names for this in like different cultures, but midsummer, like light of summer, reckoning of time, you know. Apparently it says Litha as well, that's one of them. And that's, you know, the sun is at its greatest strength, greeted and celebrated. It's just a time to like be happy. And then it says, well, it's at this time of great strength of the solar current, it marks another turning point. And that's also then obviously when the sun starts to come into its time of decline, as the wheel of the year turns. And it's arguably one of the most important festivals of the Druid traditions because of like the great focus on the sun and its light as like a symbol of divine inspiration. And
I was going to say, did you do the live stream this year? Me too. Like literally waking up early and watching the Stonehenge live stream was lush, even though it was so foggy.
Yeah, I really, really loved that.
Yeah, I was proper emotional.
It was so
like,
foggy, but it still gave me like goosebumps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't quite figure out why I was so emotional as well, but it was really cool. But yes, that is midsummer. So that's like the first half of the year in terms of the festivals that are celebrated. And now we're on to Lammas. So this is the first of the 3 Wiccan harvest festivals. The other 2 being the autumnal equinox, Mabon, and Samhain, which is like Halloween. Well, no, it's not really Halloween. It's like just after Halloween. It's like the turning of the season. So Lammas, Wiccans mark the holiday by baking a figure of the god in bread and eating it. And that's
so you know, like why I've not done that sooner.
I love that. We need to do that. So to symbolize the sanctity and importance of the harvest. And celebrations vary because not all pagans are Wiccans. So yeah, some places it's different. There's also an Irish name for this tradition that I tried to pronounce earlier. I'm not going to try again. But it's used in some traditions to designate like that holiday, like that specific name. It's kind of like to differentiate it. So Wiccan celebrations of this holiday are neither generally based on Celtic culture nor centered around like the Celtic deity that this whole thing's about, Lugh. The name just seems to have like a late adoption by Wiccans, but there's no like real reason for it. And the name Lammas itself implies that it's I'm going to do it again, agrarian-based festival, a feast of thanksgiving for grain and bread, which symbolizes the first fruits of the harvest. And Christian
I love
festivals
that. I have
like
such a funny
incorporate some
harvest story,
elements
to be
from
fair.
that pagan ritual as well.
So when I was little, we had like an assembly on like the
Go
harvest
on.
festival, you know, like every primary school in the UK does. And my like class was doing the kind of like production style thing for the festival. And so I got to be like the main character. This is just gonna like show my personality so much right now.
Hell
And
yeah.
basically I had this piece of toast and I had to like go between all these different people that were like stages in the toast being made or whatever to show thanks for it. And like this was in year 2, bearing in mind, and like I have such a vivid memory of this. So I went through and did it all, and then, you know, I was the star I was, and then everybody like sat down, assembly carried on, and I was just sat there with this piece of toast, and I was just like, maybe they won't notice if I take a little bit of the crust off. So I take a little bit of the crust off, and I eat a little bit of the crust. Then I'm like, I'm sure they won't notice if the other half of the crust is gone. And then by the end of the assembly, I'd eaten all the toast. Love me some bread.
I love it. I love that so much.
Like, did you eat it? I was like, what else would you want me to do with the toast? Yeah, like, what a waste. Got to appreciate this. I sat there for a solid assembly,
That's not giving
like,
thanks.
enjoying every mouthful of my toast. Yeah.
Exactly, and you gave thanks for every single stage of it being made.
Thanks for all of this,
well,
but
you do
goodbye,
that and
piece of
like
toast.
Screw you all and throw the whole thing in the bin.
Yeah, rubbish.
I think you did the right thing.
Glimpse into childhood Hannah and her bread obsession.
I love it. I wish I would have known you then. Okay, well, this next one, we're going to hear from you a bit more. This one is the autumn equinox, or Mabon.
So the autumn equinox,
tell us all about it, Hannah.
Is thought to be the time when nature is most balanced, which I love. I think it's like the idea that like you've come through this
really
like
nice.
The new beginnings and your harvest, and nature is kind of at peace. And so during this time, it's really important to be thankful to the earth and to the bounty that the earth has provided you. So again, being thankful for your harvest, being thankful for the food that you've kind of supplied. And it's in this point, like in this equinox, that you should, the sun god should be mourned. So as the like nights start to get darker and longer, it's the time when you mourn the fact that the sun god is no longer with us as much, which is kind of sad. And what I've got here that I thought would be interesting is actually an example of a Mabon ritual. So, firstly, you set up your altar and you cast a sacred circle. So, the things that you should be decorating your altar with include acorns, oak sprigs, pine, and cypress cones, ears of corn, wheat stalks, and other fruits and nuts. You should also place a small rustic basket filled with dried leaves of various colours and kind. So stand before your altar, hold the basket of leaves and slowly scatter them so that they cascade to the ground within the circle. Say the words such as this: leaves fall, the days grow old. No, grow cold, even. I'm going to start that again. Leaves fall, the days grow cold. The goddess pulls her mantle of earth around her. As you, O great sun god, sail towards the west, to the land of eternal enchantment, wrapped in the coolness of night, fruits ripen, seeds drip. The hours of the day and night are balanced. Chill winds blow in from north, wailing laments. In the seeming extinction of nature's power, O blessed goddess, I know that life continues, for spring is impossible without the second harvest, as surely as life is impossible without death. Blessings upon you, O fallen god, as your journey into the lands for winter and into the goddess's loving arms. Then you place down the basket and you say, O gracious goddess of fertility, I have sown and reaped the fruits of my actions, God and Bane. Grant me the courage to plant seeds of joy and love in the coming year, banishing misery and hate. Teach me the secrets of wise existence upon the planet, O luminous one of the night. And then close your circle off. I really like that.
Oh my god,
Like, there's
so
one of those
lovely.
lines, I think it's, which line is it?
That is
Where
the
it's like,
sweetest thing ever.
Spring is impossible without the second harvest. Like, that resonates with me so much. I love that. So yeah, that is the autumn equinox.
That is really, really nice.
Have you got anything to add on the autumn equinox?
Very, very nice. Let me see. Just usually takes place around the 21st to the 24th of September. I've lost where I am. No, not really. Modern pagan ritual of thanksgiving for fruits of the earth, and a recognition of the need to share them to secure the blessings of the goddess and the god during their coming winter months. So yeah, you're right. It's very much about like being grateful and.
I know. I like that. That's made me quite happy.
Welcoming in that new. That's so sweet.
Yes. Dun, dun,
Me too.
dun.
Let's move on to Halloween now. So yes, following that lovely autumn equinox is Samhain, or Halloween, or All Hallows Eve, or Day of the Dead. So Samhain is considered by Wiccans to be one of the 4 greater Sabbats. Samhain is considered by some as a time to celebrate the lives of those who have passed on, and it often involves paying respect to ancestors, family members, elders of faith, friends, pets, other loved ones who have died. And it also aligns with contemporary observance of Halloween and Day of the Dead. So in some rituals, the spirits of the departed are invited to attend the festivities. And it's seen as a festival of darkness, which is balanced at the opposite point of the wheel by the festival of Beltane, which is celebrated as like a festival of light and fertility. So I think the point of this whole circle is like showing balance, and like showing turning points of the year. But and then again it says many pagans believe that Samhain, the veil between this world and the afterlife, is at its thinnest point of the whole year,
do love that.
making it easier to communicate with those who have left this world. So I still think that's really nice. And that happens around the 1st of November, and then we come back full circle to the Yule Festival. Back to Christmas. And that's kind of like,
I do really love how balanced it is. Like, it really takes everything into
and all
consideration.
Of the different things that happen. Literally like nature, food, fertility, just gratefulness for everything. It's like, I love it. So the dates that I mentioned, like they're flexible, precise dates aren't really important. A lot of times, things will actually be celebrated on like the nearest full moon or the nearest new
definitely.
moon, which I think is good. I think it's like an energy thing. And in terms of offerings, they're typically offerings of like food, drink, various objects, just different sort of like the different rituals require different things. Modern pagans practice like strongly avoid sacrificing animals in favor of like grains, herbs, milks, wines, incense, baked goods, minerals, stuff like that, with the exception being with ritual feasts, including like meats. And that's when like there are inedible parts of the animal, they are burned.
You can kind of understand that,
and the community eats the rest. So it's just like you're not wasting
it's not been
the
done
animal
solely for that purpose. It's kind of like,
but it's not like
it's
not a sacrifice sort of thing. Precisely, yeah. So, and if it is a sacrifice of that kind, then it's typically offered to the gods and ancestors by burning. Burying and leaving offerings in the open is also common, apparently. And the purpose of offering is to like benefit, show gratitude, give something back, strengthen bonds
lush.
between like human and the divine, and like between members of the community.
That's super nice, isn't it?
But
I do like it.
That is.
I do think as well,
the
it's
Wheel
really
of the
interesting
Year.
when we sit and talk about like the veils between
Mhm.
worlds in the context of kind of like the Wiccan traditions and like the Day of the Dead and stuff, how it's seen as such a positive. You know, you think about this veil being thinner, which means you can see your ancestors and support your ancestors. Whereas if we came at this from a paranormal kind of perspective, it's like, oh, that's the time you're going to get your bad stuff through. Like, it's really interesting. They're like two different perspectives of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
it's
what
also
you kind
to do
of
with,
want
like,
to
energy
come through
again.
during that.
And intention.
That porous veil, as we discussed last time. I still hate it.
Mhm.
I've been bringing this up so often. I'm like, have you ever heard of a porous veil?
Yes.
It's just
Ew.
gross, isn't it?
I really don't like
It is
it, and
in
I
my
regret
head.
ever
It's
reading
stuck.
it and repeating it. Porous veil.
Yeah.
If you don't know what we're talking about, listen to last week.
Come
where
and
I
join us
describe
in
a
the
porous
cringing.
veil, and we both cringe for at least 10 minutes. Exactly.
Yeah.
But yes, Wheel of the Year, balance. I think it's my favourite bit about it.
does
I think it's all the balance.
bring up a
You
big
never really
perspective.
look
Like
at
the
the
whole time
whole
you're talking
year and
about it,
how
I'm like,
everything changes.
oh, I
and
love
what it
how
will
they've
mean.
thought of autumn in this way, and oh, I love how like winter's thought of like this, but spring's thought of like this. Like it really focuses on the positives of each season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it also is interesting because there are some things that you start with that you just don't
Comes
think
from
about. People are like,
witches.
oh, spring cleaning. And you're like, where did that come from? What's that about?
I like that. I like that a lot.
Exactly. There are so many things when you're
Yeah.
younger that come from witches. Even
I feel like
you know how you would
everybody,
pick up a
when
dandelion and you
you're
would blow
younger,
on
you
it
do
and it was
try
a
and
wish.
like
That's actually
create
a
your
spell.
own magic, though, don't you? Like when you're younger, you do believe those things without so much of like an analysis. You don't question whether it's real or not. You've just heard that if you do a certain thing, you'll like find out what you mean or whatever. Like it's so interesting. I love thinking about stuff like that.
Yeah.
That might just be the like the child educator in me.
Definitely.
I mean, it's probably equal. It's probably why I'm so good at like.
I think it's just the child in me that still likes
I'm a child. Oh yes.
I can relate.
Yeah, that's what I got too.
Brilliant. But
it was.
Yeah,
I feel really
that's
like
all I have for
wholesome
today.
and just like collected now after talking about all of that. I feel very happy. Yeah, especially because normally we record on like a weekend morning,
a spooky episode.
And today it's a Monday evening, and I feel like that's just asking for a nightmare, really, isn't it? Oh yeah, we need something.
It really is. Especially
we need something good.
We need to prep because next weekend is Halloween.
Oh, yes.
So.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
we'll freak you out.
We'll think. Worry. You guys come back in a week. We'll have you sorted.
Yes. Thank you for listening.
Brilliant. Well, we will see you next week.